Hey guys, a little bit of music theory here. So I'm going to show you how a major scale is constructed in music and how you can apply it to learn all of your other scales as we go through. Okay, so we're going to go over just some of the several major ones that we use in our kind of music and how they eventually translate through each other. Okay, if this sounds a little overwhelming, just think, how many letters are there in the alphabet, right? How many notes are there in music? There's only 12. Okay, so this is half as easy as language. All right. In fact, a lot of people say it's its own language on itself. Okay, so we're going to start out, and I'm going to list out every single note, starting with everybody's most common, which is a C, and then I don't particularly like using flats if I can help it. It's just the way that I work things. So we're going to work with sharps. Okay. So C, C sharp, D. Then we're going to go D sharp, E. There is no E sharp. It goes directly to F. Then there is an F sharp, a G sharp, A sharp, and a B. Okay. So if you count those up, there should be 12, I'm pretty sure. Let's see here. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, okay, so there's 12. Now, the fun part about this is that if this is all the notes there ever are in music, it doesn't matter. Whichever way you look at it, doesn't matter what instrument you play. It doesn't even matter what kind of music, as long as it's westernized. Okay, other cultures have different scales, but they're pretty well similar to this. You take this and we can construct major scales. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of reverse engineering here, and we're going to look at a C major scale. Okay, now a C major is going to be the easiest one to learn because there are no sharps or flats in the scale. You go right up through the entire alphabet. So you start with C. You always have to start with where you are. And next letter, D, next letter, next letter, next letter, next letter, next letter, and we're going to finish at the same exact place. Okay, so C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, if you count these up, you can see that there are 8 notes in every major scale. Okay, but it's this interval from learning this that we will use to construct other ones, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, if you look at your music scale, also known as a chromatic scale, this right here is gapped in what we call half steps. Okay, so if I look from C to C sharp, this is what's considered a half step. And if I go from C sharp to D, this is also considered a half step. So half, 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 half. This is still a half step between E and F. Remember, there's no E sharp. It doesn't exist. Okay, it's just an F. So this is also a half step. And there's also a half step between B and C. Okay. Last thing to know is that if you take two halves and you put them together, what do you get? Yeah, you get a whole step. Okay? So we're going to work with halves and wholes. Now, take what you know and use it to construct a system so that way we can figure out all the other scales. Watch this. So you're going to take, and how far is it from a C to a D? It's a whole step, right? So we're going to say whole. From a D to an E is also a whole. From an E to an F is a half. F to a G is a whole. G to an A is a whole. A to a B is a whole. B to a C is actually a half. Okay, so this is the formula that we use to construct all of our major scales. Okay, now there's this thing called the circle of fifths that we use to tell you and how to learn our scales, because music's essentially a circle. Okay, but we're going to use this same exact formula to construct the next major scale. And this is the reason why it's considered the next major scale. The first one is going to be G major. Okay? If this one has no sharps in it, no sharps or flats, this one has one sharp in it. And it makes it a whole lot easier to understand this way. Okay? Now, the trick is we just have to figure out where the sharp is. Okay? But first, we're going to start with where we are, which is G. My blue marker is failing me. You don't mind if I change color, do you? How about if we go back to red? So we're going to say G. Okay? Now, it is a whole step to the next letter, which is going to be an A. It's a whole step to the next letter, which is going to be B. It is a half step to the next letter, which is actually C. Okay? Whole step to the next letter, which would be a D. Whole step to the next letter, which is E. Now we're here. And now it is a whole step to the next letter. Half. There's the sharp. So it's an F sharp that exists in this scale. Last one, it's going to be the half back to resolve itself to where we started. And hey, there's 8 notes, 1 sharp. Okay. Now, to show you, if I play a C major right there, okay, you probably remember maybe like The Sound of Music where they have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? So they had that nice little song in there. So if I start with a C major scale and I play all the way up, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? Okay. If I do the same exact thing, it should have the same tones or the tone intervals in a G major scale. It's the same intervals, it's the same tones, just in a different key. Okay. Now, to keep on going with this, well, let's stick with the red. Now we have a D major scale. Is the next one we learn. And you want to know why? It's got 2 sharps. So we're going to start with a D, because you have to start where it is. It is a whole step interval to the E, right there, okay? Now, it's another whole step to the next, so it'll be an F sharp. There's our first sharp. We got 2 in this scale somewhere, okay? Now it's a half step to the next note, so that will be G. It is a whole step to the next note, a whole step to the next note, and then a whole step to the next note. So if we're at B, the half step is going to be C, and then the next half is going to be C sharp. Right there it is. And then it is a half to finish, so it'll be back where it started. Okay, there's our 2 sharps. If I take and show you the next scale, we'll stay with red, that's fine. Now you're going to have, guess what, 3 sharps in this scale. I'm going to move this up a little bit here, just like that. Okay, so now you have 3 sharps. This one happens to be an A major scale. So we have to start with where we are, A. Okay. Whole, half, whole, whole, whole half is our formula to make all majors. So it's a whole step to a B. It's a whole step to a C sharp. There's our first one. The half step. And then it is whole, whole, whole half to finish out. So we're going to go whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And there's our three sharps. Okay. Now, one more, just because. It's also a nice little bit of practice, but also a lot of people play a lot of our kind of music in E major, a lot. Okay? So you have to know these little scales as well. Got to start with where you're at. Now, it is going to be whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That is the law. Okay? So our first whole step is going to be to an F sharp. Next whole step is going to be to a G sharp. Half step to an A. Whole, 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 half to finish. So whole step to a B. Whole step to a C sharp. Whole step to a D sharp. And then a half a step to a E. All right, one more for a bonus. Next scale has 5 sharps in it, and that's a B major. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So this will be whole to a C sharp, whole to a D sharp, half to an E, whole to an F sharp, whole to a G sharp, whole to an A sharp, half to a B. All right. Now, that's the basics of how major scales are constructed. Okay, now these, you can see that these are going to be all of your notes, all 12 available in music. We're going to cut it down to 8 notes. These are called octets, not octaves, not the same thing. However, it is an octave to go from here to here. Okay, so this C note, higher in register, higher pitch, is going to be one whole octave higher than this one. And why it's called an octave? Oct, 8, 1, 2, 3. It takes you 8 things, or it takes you 8 notes to get to that next octave. You can see how that works. Okay, so there's a little bit of musical terminology for you. Okay, working down through, these are a lot of the common keys that you'll be playing in when it comes to this kind of music. Okay, so C, G, D, A, E, and B. Now, what's interesting, and what I'm going to put on a future video, is that, yeah, these scales exist, and you need to be able to use these notes. However, we might not even use any, or we might use some, or we might use all. All right? So, see you next time.